It's noon, the hottest hour of the worst possible day to be outside, and you're walking, slow, calm, after an animal that lost you an hour ago. No bow, no trap, no clever plan, just a stick, a little water, and a stubborn refusal to turn around. You're not going to catch this animal. You're going to outlast it. So what kind of hunt spills no blood for hours and is still the cruelest thing your ancestors ever invented? Here's what nobody tells you about hunting back then. The scariest predator on the savanna wasn't the one with claws. It was the one that just kept coming. Think about it. You're a gazelle. You're built for speed. You can hit 40 miles an hour and leave almost anything in the dust. But there's this slow, sweaty, two-legged thing on the horizon that will not stop. It can't catch you in a sprint. So it doesn't sprint. It walks. And every time you're sure you've escaped, an hour later, there it is again. So how do you kill something faster and stronger than you, using nothing but your own 2 feet? And why is the gentlest-looking hunt in all of human history secretly the most merciless one we ever came up with? Stay with me. This gets dark in a way you won't see coming. Let's kill a myth first. When you picture an ancient hunt, you probably see muscle, a big, hairy guy, a sharp spear. He hides in the grass, waits, and then, one perfect throw, dinner's done. Clean, powerful, heroic. It's a great image. It's also mostly wrong. Because here's the embarrassing truth about your ancestors. Physically, they were kind of a joke. No claws, no fangs worth mentioning. Can't climb like a chimp, can't sprint like a cat, can't bite through anything tougher than a sandwich. Pound for pound, an early human is one of the least intimidating large animals on the entire plain. A chimp half your size would win that fight, badly. So how does a slow, soft, clawless primate claw its way to the top of the food chain? Not with strength, with a loophole. Because every other predator out there shares the same secret problem. They're fast, terrifyingly fast, but only in short bursts. A lion's whole plan is to be invisible, then explosive, then finished. If the first 30 seconds don't land, the lion quits. It has to. Because here's the thing, every big animal on Earth is quietly fighting, all the time. Heat. When you run, your muscles make heat. A lot of it. Run hard enough, long enough, and your own body temperature starts climbing toward a number that will cook you from the inside out. Every animal has a ceiling. Cross it, and your organs begin to shut down, one by one. Which means the real race out there was never about who's fastest. It was about who overheats first. And that one boring little fact about body temperature is the entire reason you exist. Because your ancestors found a way to cheat it. Okay, this is where it gets weird. Every animal alive has to dump heat to keep moving. The only question is how. Most mammals do it by panting. Tongue out, fast, shallow breaths, blowing the hot air out and pulling cooler air in. It works. Mostly. But panting hides a fatal flaw, and it's almost too perfect to be true. An animal cannot pant and gallop at the same time. When a 4-legged animal runs flat out, its guts slam back and forth like a piston with every single stride. Lungs squeezed in, lungs flung out, locked to the rhythm of the legs. There's simply no room left to pant. So a galloping antelope is basically holding its breath in the worst possible way, sprinting, generating enormous heat, and physically unable to cool itself down while it does. It can run, or it can breathe to cool off. It cannot do both. Now here's you. You don't pant, you sweat. You've got millions of tiny taps spread all over your skin, and the second you heat up, they open and soak you in water that pulls the heat straight off your body as it evaporates. It's a genuinely brilliant system. It's also the reason you smell after the gym. But that's the whole game right there. You are the only big animal on the planet that can run and cool itself at the very same time. You're basically a slow car with the best radiator ever built. The cheetah? A Ferrari with no cooling at all. Astonishing for 9 seconds. Then it has to pull over and let the engine cry. You're the beat-up old sedan that will somehow still be rolling at sunset. So the hunt isn't really a chase. It's a thermostat war. And you already won it before it started. The animal just hasn't found out yet. Stay with me, because this is the good part. So how do you actually do it? You don't ambush. You don't even bother hiding. You stroll up to an animal in broad daylight, the hottest stretch of the day, on purpose. And you spook it. It bolts. 40 miles an hour, gone in seconds. And you just start walking after it. This is the part that breaks people's brains. Because the animal wins the first round. Every single time. It sprints off, finds some shade, stands there panting, feeling pretty smug about the whole thing. Then, on the horizon, it spots you, still coming. So it runs again, burns more fuel, makes more heat, finds more shade, and there you are again. The animal is doing brutal sprint intervals in the midday sun. You're doing a slow, easy jog. One of you is going to overheat. I'll let you guess which one. But there's a catch, and it's the genuinely hard part. Every time that animal bolts, it vanishes. You don't see where it went. So you have to read the ground. A bent blade of grass, a scuffed pebble, a hoofprint pressed a little deeper on one edge because the animal was turning, panicking, getting tired. The best trackers can look at a smear of dirt and tell you not just where an animal went, but how it was feeling when it left. They can read fear in the dust. Sit with that for a second. Before writing, before maps, before a single word was ever scratched into stone, your ancestors were reading entire stories off the ground at a jog, and they were right often enough to eat. That's not brute force. That's a detective novel where the prize is dinner and the clock is your own rising body temperature. These hunts could stretch 20, 30, even 40 kilometers. Hours and hours of it. The whole time, the animal is sprinting and braking, and you are simply relentlessly, almost boringly there. And here's the detail that should really get you. Your ancestors didn't stumble into this, they chose it. On purpose, they walked out into the single worst weather of the day. Think about how strange that is. Every other animal on the savanna spends the hottest hours doing exactly one thing, hiding. Lying in the shade, panting, waiting for the sun to ease off. The whole plain goes still and sensible. And that is precisely when your ancestors stood up, squinted at the blistering midday sky and went, "Perfect, let's go." Because they understood something the rest of the animal kingdom never worked out. Heat wasn't the enemy. Heat was the weapon. The hotter it got, the faster the prey cooked itself, and the bigger your one unfair advantage became. So you didn't fight the desert, you hired it. The sun did most of the killing. You just had to keep the animal moving and refuse to let it rest. And most of the time, this wasn't even a solo act. It was a team. One person sprints to flush the animal and keep eyes on it. Others fan out wide, ready to pick up the trail the second it cuts left or right. They'd swap out, fresh legs taking over from tired ones, so the pressure on the animal never let up for a moment, while no single human ever fully burned out. The prey keeps meeting a fresh hunter. The hunter keeps facing a fading prey. It is brutally lopsided, and that is the entire point. And the payoff for all this stubborn walking? It's bigger than one dinner. A kill meant meat, and meat is dense, concentrated fuel. Calories you don't have to spend 3 hours chewing leaves to scrape together. A lot of researchers think that steadier supply of meat is part of what let our ancestors afford something wildly expensive, a big, hungry, power-guzzling brain. The brain you're using to follow this sentence burns roughly a fifth of your energy just sitting there idling. You can't run an engine like that on salad alone. So the stubborn afternoon walk, the heat, the sweat, the flat refusal to quit, it didn't just fill bellies. It may have helped buy the very thing that makes you you, which is either deeply impressive or deeply unsettling, probably both. Now, back to that animal. Let me actually put you inside one. Properly. It's morning. Your group has spotted a kudu, a big antelope, long spiral horns, the kind of animal that could feed everyone for days. You pick one. Usually not the strongest one. The one that looks a little heavy, a little slow, maybe carrying a calf. Is that cold? A bit. But you're not out here to be sporting. You're out here to come home with food. You walk toward it until it gets nervous and bolts, and it's gone. Genuinely gone. A brown blur swallowed whole by the heat shimmer. If you were a lion, this is where you'd shrug and go take a nap. But you're not a lion. You're worse. You start to walk. Not toward where it is. You read the tracks, and you hold a picture of this one specific animal in your head. Its size, its stride, the exact way its hoof catches the dirt, so that when its trail crosses a dozen others, you don't get fooled into chasing the wrong deer for an hour. That's the secret nobody mentions. You're not just chasing an animal, you're holding it in your mind for hours, like a song stuck in your head. Except the song is a single deer, and forgetting the tune means your family goes hungry tonight. The sun climbs, your shadow shrinks under your feet. Hour 1, you find it resting in the shade and it bolts long before you're close. Good. That's energy it can't get back. Hour 2, it doesn't run quite as far. Hour 3, when you come over the rise, it's just standing there, sides heaving, head hanging low, and it looks at you, and it doesn't run. Not because it's brave, because it's empty. And this is the moment that gets every hunter, in every account, in the exact same way. There is no triumph in it. There's a kind of quiet respect. You walked an animal all the way to the edge of its own body, and now you finish it fast, because a fast finish is the one mercy you have left to give. Then you carry it home, and everyone eats. That whole story, that entire afternoon, and you never once ran faster than it did. You just refused to be anywhere except right behind it. So why on earth would I call something this calm the cruelest hunt we ever made? Here's the part nobody puts in the textbooks. Because on the surface, this looks gentle. There's no ambush, no trap snapping shut. For most of those hours, nothing violent happens at all. Just a person walking and an animal running under the same brutal sun. And that is exactly what makes it merciless. A spear is fast, awful, sure, but fast. A bad few seconds and then it's over. This is the opposite of that. This is slow. The animal isn't wounded. Nothing has even touched it. It is being killed by the one enemy it can't outrun and can't fight, its own body. Every escape makes things worse. Every desperate sprint to safety drags the ending closer. The thing keeping it alive, that gorgeous God-given speed, is the exact same thing slowly cooking it from the inside. And the human doesn't have to be strong, doesn't have to be brave, doesn't even have to be fast. The human just has to refuse to stop. That's the entire weapon. Patience. The plain willingness to keep walking after something long after any normal predator would have quit and gone looking for an easier lunch. A lion gives up in the first minute. You gave up your whole afternoon. And somewhere in that last hour, the animal stops running. Not because it's cornered, because it simply can't anymore. The legs go. The temperature has climbed past the line, and the body that carried it across these plains for years just quietly switches off. No wound, no blood, just a body that ran out of road. And the cruelty was never in any single moment. It's in the math. The ending was settled hours ago, back when that animal still felt fast and free and absolutely sure it had gotten away. By the time the hunter walks up, the hardest part is already finished, done by the sun, by physics, by the animal's own frantic running. The kill itself is almost an afterthought. Let that sit for a second. The most dangerous thing about early humans was never our hands. It's that we would not give up. We out-stubborned the entire animal kingdom. And honestly, that should raise the hair on your arms a little. Because that thing, that flat refusal to quit, did not go anywhere. It's still sitting in you right now. And I mean that literally. This hunt didn't just feed your ancestors. It quite literally built the body you're sitting in. Look down for a second. That big muscle you're sitting on, your glutes, the largest muscles you own, they barely do anything when you walk. Stroll around the kitchen, and they basically nap. But the moment you run, they fire hard to stop your upper body from pitching forward onto your face with every step. They are mostly running muscles. You are sitting on the evidence right now. There's a thick cord of tendon at the back of your heel, the Achilles, that stretches and snaps back with every stride, storing and returning energy like a spring on a pogo stick. Walking? Barely touches it. Running? It hands you free energy with every single step. There's even a tiny special ligament at the back of your skull, one that chimps and our older ancestors didn't have, whose main job seems to be keeping your head steady and your eyes level while the rest of you pounds down the trail. Your body is stitched together from the top of your head to the back of your heel for one very specific activity, covering long distances on two legs without falling apart. We think this whole package clicked into place around 2 million years ago with an ancestor called Homo erectus, basically the first humans built like runners. The ones before them, the more ape-like Australopithecines, couldn't do this. They walked just fine. But they weren't built to chase the horizon for half a day. So somewhere across that 2 million year stretch, the slow, sweaty, stubborn ones survived a little better than everyone else. They ate a little more, raised a few more kids who lived, and quietly handed down the exact body you're using right now to walk to the fridge. The single greatest endurance machine the animal kingdom has ever produced, and most of us use it to stand in line for coffee. No judgment, by the way. I do it too. Now, here's where I have to level with you because this channel doesn't do fairy tales. For a long time, plenty of scientists were skeptical of this whole idea, and their point was fair. If running animals to death was such an unstoppable strategy, why don't we see people doing it all over the world? The real, carefully documented persistence hunts, the kind a researcher actually stood and watched and wrote down, turned out to be pretty rare. A handful of accounts, mostly from a few groups of hunters in southern Africa, running antelope down in the desert heat. And those hunters, just to be clear, are not some frozen window into the Stone Age. They are modern people, living modern lives, who happen to keep an incredibly old skill alive. They're not fossils, they're experts, but that rarity nagged at people. So more recently, researchers went back and combed through the old records, explorer journals, field notes, ethnographies from all over the planet, and found a whole lot more of these endurance hunts than anyone had ever bothered to count. Not just in deserts, in forests, in snow, on open plains. Then they ran the cold math on it. All that running, all that sweat for one single animal. Does it even pay off? Turns out, when you actually tally the calories spent against the meat brought home, it's a surprisingly good deal. Good enough to be worth doing. Good enough, maybe, to have helped shape us. So is this exactly how every ancient human hunted, everywhere, every day? No. They had spears, they had traps, they had teamwork and fire, and 100 other clever tricks up their sleeves. But the body doesn't lie. The glutes, the heel spring, the sweat, the head that holds level at a jog, every bit of it points the same direction. Long before the clever weapons, something in our line learned to win by simply outlasting. And it left its fingerprints all over your skeleton. So let's walk back out to that animal, and that afternoon, one last time. Strip away the survival, the science, the cold arithmetic of it, and look at what's really happening out there on the plain. A creature that is slower, weaker, and softer than nearly everything around it has decided, calmly, without a trace of anger, that it is simply not going to quit. No rage, no roar, just a quiet, devastating patience that outlasts speed itself. Our ancestors didn't end up running this planet because they were the strongest things on it. They ran it because when everything else gave up and lay down, they kept walking. And that part of them never left the building. It's in you on the run you didn't want to finish. It's in you at 2 a.m, on the problem you can't put down. Every single time you want to stop, and you don't, you are doing the oldest thing our kind knows how to do. The animals were always faster. We were just willing to be there longer. 300,000 years later, you're still doing it. Funny how that works. So tell me, down in the comments, what's the one thing in your life you flat out refused to quit on, even when everything inside you was screaming to stop? I genuinely want to read those. And if you somehow made it all the way to the end of a 25-minute video about walking after a deer, honestly, your ancestors would be proud. That stubborn little muscle is the whole thing we've been talking about.